I grew up with my dad gambling all the time. When we'd go to Vegas, I was like 13 or something. My parents would literally just be like, here's a bunch of money. We'll see you at dinner. And I would just go to the arcades, the child casino.
Welcome to Cleopatra. I'm Christy Medrano.
I'm Lynn Molly, and we're two Middle Eastern comedy queens digging up the funny from the first generation experience.
Our guest today is an amazing stand-up comedian. You might have heard her on Bob's Burgers. She performs all around. Please welcome Christine Medrano. Woo, woo, woo.
Hello. I found my camera. I was like, where are you looking? Hidden. Secret.
Just speak to your personal CIA agent, your FBI
Hi,
agent.
TSA.
Yes.
TSA, NSA. Anyway, I don't know.
All of them. All of the A's.
They're listening for sure.
Absolutely. That's like our main demographic is just the people surveilling for national security purposes this podcast.
A listener is a listener, am I right?
You got it. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so cool.
Yeah, well, this is so cool because when do three brown women get
to talk
uninterrupted for, a long time?
Maybe the first time ever. Who knows?
And historical podcast.
We should get ads that are just like for like a white man selling white things to white men just to interrupt us in between. So we're like making money off it, but we're feeling at home.
I've been reaching out.
Greens.
I've been reaching out to Hims for weeks, and they're like, "We're not. We don't care. I don't think you can sell our erectile dysfunction pills. Sorry, Christy."
I think we could. I want to go against the grain.
Okay, so about this podcast, as you know, we like to talk to creatives about their first generation experience, and we like to ask them how they got here, how their parents got here, or their grandparents, what their stories are. So as far back as you want to go, as is relevant to you, how did you end up in Los Angeles? What's your background?
Well, I'm originally from Canada. My parents I'm first generation in Canada, and my parents have a very interesting immigration story because basically my mom, she's from Guyana, and my dad's from the Philippines, but they ended up in like Canada. But my mom was there on like a visa, but like too early, and they were like actually trying to deport her. And so she met these guys who were essentially trying to hit on her and her sister at the time. And they were like, oh, don't go to that hotel. They were being put up in a hotel. And they're like, don't go to that hotel. That's where the hotel where they take people that are going to be deported the next day. So my mom was like, oh, we're not going to do that. And so they left the province that they were in and essentially became fugitives at that point and had arrest warrants out for them. And then we're working under like fake names. And then when my mom and dad met, they'd only known each other for about 3 months or so. And when they were dating, every day my dad would be like, when are we going to get married? When are we going to get married? And they both thought the other one had a green card.
That's so funny.
And so they got married. And then because my mom's name was like, like on a watch list or whatever, she ended up getting arrested.
Wow.
And then by that time, though, she was like pregnant. And so my brother was kind of like the anchor baby. So they couldn't deport her. And also my mom was saying that like for the first trial that they had at immigration, the prosecutor ended up getting hit by a car on the way into trial, so they had to reschedule. It was like crazy, things like that. You know what I mean? So that's how my family ended up in Canada.
Your dad's like, yeah, that was a real accident. Oh no.
Well, apparently my mom said that the person who hit down the prosecutor ended up being like another immigrant who couldn't speak English. And so like it was just kind of like a weird kind of coincidental thing that happened. But that is how my family came to Canada, was like through my mom being kind of like, this weird fugitive, and then my dad having some weird like visa where he was trying to get married to someone so that he could get citizenship in Canada.
So they're kind of like conning each other.
Yeah, they were definitely conning each other. And what a beautiful love story. Two cons come together.
Yeah, it's like how to lose a guy in 10 days, but it's how to get a green card in 4 months.
How to get a green card in 4 months.
And then they're both like, wait, you're playing the prank on me. And then they're mad, but then they fall in love. That's a good story. Let's write that.
Yeah, I know. It truly feels like a log line. Two people get married for a green card, but neither one of them has a green card. But yeah, my mom said that when she was in jail, my dad would go and visit and he would be crying and not her, and she'd have to like comfort him.
That's so
men.
Classic, yeah.
Their dad's a white woman. Sorry.
Are they still conning each other to this day? Or
they're divorced, so I guess they're the biggest con of all. But
love was the greatest con of all. That's the log line.
They're divorced and rightfully so, though. Okay. But I feel like also my parents were very like, I was very much like an immigrant kid, like cleaning offices with my dad. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just like child labor.
Very casual. Yeah.
Very casual.
Which is making a comeback in the States, even with
for
fuller
Americans,
force than originally realized. But
I know. I saw that thing. They were like, well, they can work in construction, but only non-commercial construction. I was like, what? I don't want a kid building my house.
Absolutely not.
I would watch the Disney Channel show about it. Like kids construction, I'd watch
Zach
that.
and Cody build a house. The building a sweet life.
Yeah, exactly. So tragic. Yeah, unfortunately.
The merch on that is just through the roof. We could be making a
literally
franchise.
through the roof that they're building.
There's already a hole in the roof, so it's really easy to get in there. That's bizarre. Okay, so you have an older brother.
I have two older brothers.
Okay.
Yeah. I have two older brothers. I'm the baby, so I feel like I also got the most lenient version of my parents. Classic, right? Yeah.
We have talked about how there's like youngest child syndrome, a lot of youngest children in the comedy sphere.
Yeah. Are either of you?
Yeah, both
all
of us.
Youngest of three.
Youngest of three?
Yeah.
Youngest of two.
Okay.
And we're all just like, look at me. Hey, everyone.
I mean, if they just listened to us when we were growing up, we wouldn't be here. Right. We would have saved a lot of time.
We'd be in cubicles.
I know. There's still time for me to
also, our immigrant parents like gave up by the time it came to us. They're like, we're done.
They're like
making you be a lawyer. Go be free.
You were a lawyer.
I was just in a cubicle like a week ago.
Yeah, setting the bar and passing the bar.
And then tripping over it face first, which is
then doing stand-up in bars.
Yes.
From bar to bars.
And soon we'll be behind bars for all that. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully not. Knock on this marble-looking
like
structure.
Laminate marble.
Knock on laminate.
Knock on yourself. Your shirt's like a little woody.
Okay, here we go.
There we
this is good. We'll TBD a wooden thing. I get weirdly superstitious. Are you a woo-woo superstitious person?
I'm a woo-woo superstitious person, I guess, in the way of like astrology and crystals.
Oh, we're big astrology
and kind of
gals.
And also kind of gambling. I do have some like family superstitions that are like more related to gambling.
Oh my gosh.
Because my family like had a lot of gambling. So
it's a gamble love story from the beginning.
Life's a gamble. There's the title.
The only thing they gambled with was their hearts. Okay.
No, but it was like, if you have bad luck, walk around the table. Like for slot machines, my mom's always like, if you hit a jackpot, you got to cash out and get fresh money. You gotta put fresh $20 bill in.
Money.
So that way they think it's like a new person playing, and you're more likely to hit the jackpot again. Like stupid shit like that.
Wow.
Those are but also like, I do affirmations. I like incense. I have crystals. All the intention candles one could need.
I love it.
That reminds me of, Did you watch Full House growing up?
Oh yeah, of course.
Do you remember the episode where, I forget, it was one of the daughters like walks around the table with like this Greek guy who comes to visit, and then they're like, "You're married."
No.
Iconic immigrant story.
There's always that one scene.
You know, child brides and tables.
Yeah. Didn't age well, that episode.
I will never stop thinking about it.
Yes. God bless John Stamos for bringing such capital C culture to network television in the 90s. We got to back up, though, because I think what people who are listening do not know, and what I would like to know more about, because I've only heard about it just through the lens of your stand-up and your jokes.
Yeah.
But the fact that your parents were gamblers and that you like grew up in the gambling world.
So my dad was more of the gambler, like addicted gambler, and then my mom kind of got, you know, what is the French phrase for when two people go crazy together or whatever? So then my mom kind of started gambling with my dad, and then I remember they had like, I think they had like, I'm sure they love me airing their dirty laundry all the time on pot, things like this. But I think at one point they had like stopped going to local casinos because they banned themselves, which is a thing you could do at all casinos. You can ban yourself being like, don't let me in, okay? So then they started going to Las Vegas from Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is right above like Fargo. And so
is that where you grew up?
Yeah, we're in Winnipeg. And so we would fly from Winnipeg to Vegas like pretty semi-regularly when I was like in middle school and like in high school.
Wow. Were they making any money?
Well, my parents were like, they had a healthcare business, Filipinos. So they were making money through that, but my dad was like losing everything that they were making essentially through gambling, and still is to this day. But it was one of those things where like if my dad didn't gamble, I do wonder if like my family would have been so much more like would have been like refined, but like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like actually
Where would we have been?
Yeah, exactly. But so a lot of gambling. Like I grew up like with my dad gambling all the time. And that's why it's so funny that I gamble, because I'm like, I'm different.
Right.
Can't catch
there
me.
Are cameras present, so it's more entertainment than it is addiction.
I know to stop. I know to walk away. But like, yeah. So I grew up a lot around like gambling. My dad used to play. It's kind of like this. I guess I think it's a Filipino card game called Pasoy, which is kind of like their version of a kind of poker, kind of. Yeah.
Were you like bored or invested when they were playing? Bored.
Oh, bored?
Were you poor?
I thought you were like, were you bored or investing? And I was like, wait, what? I don't know what kind of child you thought I was.
As a child? Yeah.
I remember being kind of like invested. Like I always loved watching the World Series of Poker growing up. My dad taught me how to gamble for like when I was young. And when I started going to casinos, like when I was old enough to gamble, I remember my mom standing behind me at like a blackjack table being like, oh, no, you don't hit soft 16. That you took his bust card. You have to play at the table. Look, see, that's why everyone lost.
Oh my
and then a bunch of people getting up and walking away from the table. But it's true now. Now like she was
gambling.
right. She was right. You don't hit a soft 16 when the dealer's showing like a 4 or whatever.
Oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm so excited to
I
learn.
know. It's very Queen's Gambit. It's like, what do you know in your brain?
It's all useless against, I don't know, in like everyday life.
You know that meme of the lady and it's like white geometry?
Yes.
And like that's what I'm picturing you right now, like just weird equations and just making
It's just a GTO chart, a game theory optimization poker chart.
All right. No, yeah, I know about game theory.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
I wish I played them. I mean, I wish I played according to the charts. I kind of go with my gut, and it's
according
sometimes
to the
not bad.
birth
Good,
chart,
yeah.
right?
The birth chart,
yeah,
yes.
of course.
The crystals, awesome. Okay, so what was it like growing up? Apart from the gambling part, like was it? Did you have like a mostly Filipino community around you, or what was
mostly Filipino? Yeah, because when
cool.
I was in a private Catholic school where it was like a diaspora of just like Filipino kids so we learned a lot of dancing. And I literally, I remember when I was in middle school, there were so many Filipino kids who could all sing. And so like a few white parents had started complaining that there weren't enough like white kids in lead roles because they were doing musicals. And we literally had like world champion singers in our middle school. And so we put on these like, the school was kind of known for their like middle school musical productions because of how many talented kids could sing. Like it was pretty wild.
Is that like common?
You grew up in Glee High School.
If you go into like TikTok and you put in like Filipino singing, it is like a thing. A lot of Filipinos can like sing really well, can like dance really well. Like I remember being like in a hip hop dance crew when I was like growing up, and we'd perform at weddings, and there was like a lot of people who could like dance in the Filipino community. I did like take one anthropology class about the Philippines, and I think it's because of like a language they used to speak called like, I think it was like, I'm gonna like butcher this, like babalao or something, where it's like it was very sing-songy. But a lot of Filipinos can sing amazing. I am not one of them. If I could sing, I would definitely have been
not
like
be a stand-up.
not be a stand-up. I'd be like, I'd be like on that stage singing.
You'd be on American Idol.
I wish. I mean, not really, but
somebody has a joke about this. Doesn't every stand-up comedian just want to be the lead singer of a band? Like, right?
mean,
that's what we all want.
They say that musicians want to be comedians and comedians want to be musicians.
A musician wants to be a comedian.
yeah, I mean, John Mayer.
Yeah, that's true. Or just like if you go to a concert and there's always a dude like,
T.I.
I'm going to tell a story while they're tuning their guitar. And they're like, this reminds me of and then they say something and make the audience laugh. And they're like,
and the bar to laughter is so low for them.
Yeah. I do have a friend though. She is such a funny musician. Like I remember one time she was on stage and there was like a bunch of feedback coming, and she made like a joke about getting feedback from the audience. I thought it was funny. I don't know. I was laughing. But I used to be a musician. Like I thought I was going to be a professional musician when I was like in high school.
What kind of music?
I was an emo pop punk. So.
Right. I have it no other way. No other way.
No other way.
Do you have a Spotify, SoundCloud? Any songs
we used to have this is like a deep cut. We used to have a Peer Volume. Does anybody remember Peer Volume?
That's what my stand-up special is on.
Wait, for real? No. I was like, what? No, but yeah.
It's on MySpace.
We used to have a MySpace too, but yeah, we were pretty good for like a bunch of teenagers. I don't know. I still listen to it. I'm like, this sounds exactly like Newfound Glory or whatever. Yeah.
I love that so much. Okay, so you had like this musical background, and when did you leave Manitoba?
Oh, I left pretty early on. I was like, get me out of here. I moved when I was like probably like 18 or 19.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew that, like, to California, because I knew that the longer that I stayed, the harder it would be to leave. You know what I mean? Because like, are you both Angelinos?
I'm from the East Coast, outside
East Coast,
New York, Jersey.
yeah.
I'm from here.
Yeah, I think that like, especially like in Canada, I feel like I know so many people who are like, you're just kind of.
You're going to die here.
You're going to die here. You're going to die in minus 30 weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of moved pretty early.
Did you know you wanted to get into entertainment?
Yeah, I knew pretty early that I wanted to get into entertainment. But I didn't start stand-up till like later though. Yeah. But that was, yeah, I think.
Did you go to school out here?
Yeah, I went to UCLA.
Oh, cool.
I have a degree in anthropology. Very interesting, but useless.
How else would I have known about that sing-songy Filipino language?
Or also like that Magellan was beheaded in the Philippines.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, by the Lapu-Lapu.
Third thing they tell you when you go.
Really? But I think that's cool. It's like, oh, this guy who colonized the world was killed in the Philippines by like a tribe.
Whenever those Magellan like GPS came out, did you just feel this need to like chop them in half?
I mean, I still do.
Bones?
Yeah, 100%. Just culturally, I have
Genetic,
to.
yeah.
Hey, yeah.
So you went to UCLA. I grew up around UCLA my whole life, so the Diddy Reese cookies
Diddy Reese
are still in my blood to this day. And Jen, you just stuck around LA. You've been here since you're 18, or did you ever leave? Okay.
I mean, I lived in New York for like a hot second, but then I honestly it's hard. I think it's easier to move from New York to LA and
Absolutely.
harder to move from LA to New York because it's cheaper to live here. Yeah. It's cheaper to live here. It's more comfortable. I think that if like I moved there when I was like 19 or 20 or something, I would have been like, wow.
Right.
But when you move when you're older, you're kind of like, I mean, I feel like every New Yorker is going to kill me for saying that.
Well, I mean,
New York hat.
I think they'd wear it as a badge that, like, yeah, it's hard to make it here.
I'm
whereas,
soft.
like, exactly. And
all my friends from college who moved to New York after college, they all now live here. Like after 10 years there, they moved here, and everyone who moved to LA after college is still in LA. So I think there is something to that.
I always think about this Morgan Murphy joke about how she talks about how she's never been in her place in LA wishing she was paying more for less. You know what I mean?
what eventually then led you in the direction of comedy?
A bad breakup. Classic, right?
Classic.
I had a bad breakup and then I just started doing stand-up. I think it's also something I always wanted to do. When I was like 13 years old, my middle school teacher told me he had like a day in a park and he made us all write down 100 things we wanted to do in our lives.
What a cool exercise.
Yeah. And so we were all kind of like writing and he'd come around and like talk to us, each one of us. And he sat down with me and he's like, put down stand-up comedy. And I was just kind of, and it kind of, I think, planted a seed in the back of my head. I was always like the class clown or whatever. And so I think I always wanted to do stand-up. Like I was obsessed with award shows because I'd watch the hosts and I'd like love watching the hosts do their thing. But I didn't think that I could ever do stand-up. You know what I mean? I feel like you probably know. It's like
People like us didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. The only woman I saw doing stand-up when I was growing up was like Sarah Silverman. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that you really saw ever. So, but once I did do it, the first few years I was doing it, I would do it like once every 3 months. And then I would just like do the same exact material over and over about being like to catch a predator decoy.
That's so funny. I love that once a fiscal quarter. You're like, time for my
quarterly stand-up.
It's Q3 and I have to do my stand-up.
Time to walk down to the Ha Ha Cafe. Ooh, to think. And also I think if you start stand-up at the Ha Ha, of course you don't want to do stand-up on a regular basis. You're like, how do I not do this that often?
My regular place in the beginning was, I want to say it was called Open Space.
Oh, yes.
That was the only place I did stand up for a year.
And it's like a weirdly, it's like a giant room. Yeah. Such a high roof.
No
You're
one's
like,
there.
What happens here? Yeah, no one goes there. Yeah. I know exactly. Oh my God. Yeah, I've not thought of that place in years.
It's long closed, but I spent a good year of my life in that room. So you came to LA, you started doing stand-up. What was the general landscape like of the stand-up scene then?
Oof. I feel like it was not as welcoming, if you can imagine, for women. It was like long time ago. I feel like I've been in it for a minute, but when I first started, it was really like, I feel like a lot of the other women in the scene were kind of like not that welcoming to me at the time.
I'm the token woman on the show.
Exactly.
There's only one spot. Yeah.
That was exactly the vibe. And then I think shortly after that, like Pussy Posse started, like that Facebook group. I don't know if you were ever part. It was like a women comic group, but then it started like exposing abusers, and then that got leaked, and then they shut down the space because the amount of leaks and like people were being threatened. It was like a wild time. Wow. Yeah. But so yeah, it was like a lot of like
pre-Me Too.
Yeah, it was pre-Me Too, but it was like, you know, well, what was it called? Whisper Network. And so it started kind of like being like, okay, these are the like people who have been abusive, and then people started like doxing people who had exposed their abusers, which is like, what a fucked up thing to do.
Right.
But the stand-up landscape was still very much like like, I feel like I was mostly hanging out in the valley. I was doing a lot of flappers midnight mics.
Ooh, don't brag now.
You know, a lot of flappers midnight mics, like Marty's.
Oh, yep. We were just talking about Marty's the other day. What a place.
Oh my God. I remember the moment I stopped going to Marty's, but I used to do Marty's all of the time. But there was like a moment where they hung up like a photo of like someone doing stand-up topless in the front area. Oh no. And I'm sure it was like
was it Bert Kreischer?
I don't know, yeah. No, but I'm sure the person like consented to it, but I was just kind of like, this doesn't feel like a great space for women. And also someone had also tried to someone had slapped my ass when I walked on stage at Marty's, turned around and punched him in the face and told him not to ever touch a woman on stage again.
Yes, you did.
And then another person tried to like, I was wearing short shorts. I didn't open this was my fault. I walked into this and I was at Marnie's and I was in a room full of like guys I knew who all started talking about how they wanted to rape me.
What?
Yeah. And then a guy came in and then I was on stage, came up to me and tried to rub my leg. And so I went to like kick him in the balls, a natural reflex, and he grabbed my leg. And I remember just kind of like, I was so pissed.
Understandably.
You know what I mean? And then it was one of those things though. So I feel like that's what I mean when like the landscape for women is still, even though there's still so far to go, it has come such a long way. It truly was like, yeah, you could just, I mean, even at Marty's, you know, he'd go on stage and he'd kind of like talk and like sexually harass all of the women and talk about like sexualize them, talk about your body or like, you know what I mean? It just felt like, I know, I just watched Quiet on Set and I'm like, they could do one of these for like stand-up comedy easily.
I see why you stopped doing it for months at a time. Yeah. That would take some strength to go back to.
Yeah, it definitely was like you had to really love it and like put up with a lot of shit.
Okay, going back a little bit, when you started comedy, like did your parents have anything to say about it, or were they just like, did they have like any designs for you as a child or try to like push you in any type of direction, or were they just like, you're the youngest, go ahead and be free and do your thing? And
did they want you to like work at a casino?
Definitely not. I feel like they were really open to me being like whatever I wanted. Like for a long time, I thought I was going to be a professional basketball player. And
tell the audience how tall you are.
I'm 5 foot. But let me tell you, when I was growing up, another thing, Filipinos love basketball. I could ball. I was a, you know, but I didn't realize I couldn't be a professional basketball player for like a long time. That's just kind of like, my parents just let me be like, yeah, sure. I think my mom had a dad who was kind of like, she wanted to go to law school and got into this good school or whatever, but she wasn't allowed to go. And so I think that really impacted her with being like, yeah, do whatever it's going to make you happy. And so my parents were pretty supportive, you know, with me doing stand-up. I mean, I already was in Los Angeles, you know what I mean? And so there was no like hard conversation. I feel like my dad has seen me do stand-up a few times, and I used to have like a joke, like a lot more. I still have a lot of jokes about him being a bad dude or like a not great dad. He's a fine whatever person. But yeah, you know, they're very supportive. I mean, they don't like come to every show or whatever, but yeah.
Where are they now? My
mom lives in California. She lives in Simi Valley.
Oh, cool.
And my dad's still in Winnipeg. So my mom moved to LA. And yeah, my dad's still in cold Winnipeg, but spends a lot of time in the Philippines. Like he's there for like a few months at a time. And I'm like, don't you have like a wife and kid who just live in Canada? I think he has a third family we don't know about.
Oh, interesting.
Very different climates.
Yeah, 100%. Kind of the complete opposite if you think about it. Literally like one of the coldest metropolitan cities in the world.
So you touched on this briefly, but what was his response to your material about him? Was he just like, I don't like this?
My dad's kind of like monosyllabic, so he just kind of like, yeah, okay.
Oh,
like my girlfriend, like he met my girlfriend recently, and afterwards my mom was like, my dad said to her, he was like, when is she gonna get a boyfriend? And my mom was like, that was her girl, like she introduced you to her girlfriend. My dad was just like, what's wrong with these kids? Because my brother's also gay, so I'm just kind of he's still like, you know, homophobic, but homophobic light.
Just like it's a phase, TM.
Yeah, kind of like it's a phase, but also like maybe like he won't say anything to my face about it, you know.
Okay.
But he'll like be like, these kids to my mom. That's the extent he'll talk about it. So yeah, even seeing him my set, I think he's just like, okay, good, yeah. Like he truly does like not talk that much to like me at least, but then he'll like talk his ear off to like, I don't know, his employees. He's like a womanizer. It's very confusing.
So you told me earlier that when you were a kid, they would be like, here's some money, we're gonna go to the casinos. Like,
yeah.
You were like basically a latchkey kid?
I mean, yeah. So I'd be like, it was when I was like, when we'd go to Vegas, I was like 13 or something. And my parents would literally just be like, here's a bunch of money. We'll see you at dinner. And I would just go to like the arcades, the child casino. Me and my brother, because I wasn't old enough to take taxis, and we had like limo service because of how much money my parents were losing. We would just take a limo to Circus and spend hours just spending hundreds upon hundreds of dollars at their arcade, winning like a lot of like, I got so good at claw machines.
Wow. Do you still rock a claw?
Oh, 100%. I was just in New York and there was this claw machine. I put in $5, gave me 5 tries. Took away 4 stuffed animals.
Oh,
wow.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
why
my
you're
God.
picking up all these girlfriends.
Yeah, I'm just like, hey, you want to see something cool?
You're like,
Let me show you my claw machine skills. If there's a claw machine though, like sometimes it takes a few tries, but I usually can get one. Yeah, and. Hot tip for the people who go to Chateau Lanes: if you just keep hitting the button, that's how you get it to stay.
Okay.
Okay.
The claw machine there. Yeah.
Market.
They have Squishmallows there. I've won a few Squishmallows from that
Aren't those
bowling
worth
alley.
money?
The Squishmallows, yeah, they're
Yeah.
kind of like the Beanie Babies of nowadays,
Okay.
right? I mean, I don't know how much money they're worth, but I do own a few exclusively from claw machines, unfortunately.
Very nice.
Are the ones in the claw machines like as like expensive as the ones?
I
I don't know. much
I
about-
don't know. I think they're smaller. They're the pretty small ones,
okay.
so they get pretty big. I've seen them at Costco, the giant ones that you're like can lie down on or whatever.
I have a friend who has a room that is entirely Squishmallows, and it is so kooky and so beautiful, and it makes you like so happy to be in there and so spooked at the same time.
I didn't know what a Squishmallow was until like 6 months ago.
I didn't know until I went into this room she has.
You're the one who actually told me about them. And I was
She
like,
was just
what
like-
is this?
Here's the best part of the house. She opened the door and I was like, I love this so much.
Is she
But I'm
making
scared.
Squishmallow content? I feel like she needs to be like a Squishmallow influencer.
It's the opposite. She has no social media presence whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
the
wasted
dream.
potential. You and I are seeing dollar signs. We're like, oh man, this could be absolutely be a
No,
TikTok.
it's all for her.
That's kind of
That's so
beautiful.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for anybody.
Like
It's like that art that you don't care. It's like me with my watercolor painting. It's just for me.
Yeah.
oh my God, you're like George W. You-
She could have said Hitler. At least she didn't say Hitler. You're like Hitler with his painting.
Triggering to an Arab.
Right, yeah.
Sorry.
Although I don't think George W. did watercolors. I think he was like an oil or acrylic guy, right?
You
Oh,
know.
I don't even know. Truly,
okay.
I can't look at a painting and know. I don't know.
I know he does Scotty dogs. I know that's like his big.
What is
like-
a Scotty dog?
Like,
just
like the Scotty dogs.
Those dogs with like the beards.
Oh yeah,
Little legs.
yeah. They look like they're old men.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, we'll find somebody else who also has a painting habit that isn't George W. I'll think some.
Who's
for the
like
next
the
time.
less,
Who's not a war criminal?
I think
Kylie Jenner, right? Or one of the Jenners has like a room where she's like, I paint here, and we're like, these are all unopened. This looks like a lie.
That's really funny. Do you have like a thing you do that's only for you that you don't monetize or try to like show other people?
I guess the thing I started doing that I really love is I love my climbing gym. I think everyone goes through a climbing
hell
gym
yeah.
phase in LA. And so me and my girlfriend go, and I've been like obsessed with it every day. I'm like, can we go to the climbing gym? Can we go to the climbing gym? And what I've learned from the climbing gym is that it's just like mostly like queer women who come in couples.
I thought it was like lanky white men.
That meant that too. A lot of top knots, whatever they're called.
Yeah, because that's my type of guys, like lanky men, and I just like know they gravitate.
Gotta hit
they're
a
like
climbing
little
gym.
spiders on the wall. I know where to find my Spider-Man.
Just daddy long legs.
Making their way up the wall to your heart. Just as like a, what is it, Splendid Man? What is this called?
Slenderman.
Slenderman. There you go.
Slenderman.
Splendid Man.
Splendid
would be
Man.
Such a good. Why did
Splenda Man.
Why did Splenda make Splenda Man their mascot?
They still have time.
They still have time.
He would
We can
also
pitch
be
that.
very thin.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
I do think a lot of the walls though at the climbing gym are skewed for like tall people. Because I'm
they
like
are.
literally like, and then I'm like just like falling down.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
whole
very-
world is skewed for tall men. I went to the grocery store with, do you know Kadi Assad? Yes, you know Kadi Assad. She's maybe about your height.
She's taller.
And
Yeah.
I got like angry at the way the world is set up watching her try to get things from the top shelf. And I was like, this is not accessible to her. And she didn't even like know, I feel like, the struggle she was having because she's just lived with it. And it made me very mad. The world is really set up for tall men.
I mean, I truly do climb on so many surfaces. Like if I'm in a kitchen, I'm like climbing to the top,
same.
climbing around. If
I'm
a
the
step
person
ladder.
that will step on like that first rung of the grocery
Oh yeah, 100%.
shelf
yeah,
and then
for
probably
sure.
topple it over. But
And then they get mad at you. And it's like, well, you know, put a little step stool here.
Yeah, or like one of those like Beauty and the Beast ladders. You know what I mean? Can you imagine?
Slide
me
it
in the
down.
fruit snack aisle. Oh, isn't this amazing?
Yeah.
So, some questions for you. Cleopatra was the queen of luxury. What is a luxury bougie thing that you do not refuse yourself?
I feel like I'm a frugal girly, but kind of probably beverages. I know this sounds stupid, but I always have like a stocked fridge. It's always like a bunch of Topo Chicos, a bunch of Celsiuses, a bunch of San Pellegrinos.
Yes.
Got that Costco membership. I'm buying in bulk. I got, you know, my
You're like a gym refrigerator.
my fridge truly looks like a workspace. You know what I mean? Where
I was
it's
gonna
kind of
say,
go in,
it's a
grab a
tech firm.
Gatorade. Yeah,
Or like a writer's room.
truly.
Yeah.
I feel like for a while I like just had Gatorade. Like I'll cycle in like different kinds of drinks, but like for a while, like for 2 weeks in the pandemic, I drank nothing but Gatorades. I think it's just because I hate water.
Yeah.
I hate water, and I will do everything to avoid drinking it. And so I just drink like 5 beverages, and I'm like, these all are hydrating, I think. Sometimes I'll get in a good water kick where I'm like, we're drinking water, we're staying hydrated. And then sometimes I'm like, give me sparkling water all day, which I'm sure is not as hydrating. I'm afraid to look into if it's the same as drinking water because I know it's not.
I'm sure it like we'll find out. I think it like dehydrates you and depletes your vitamins.
Okay, here we go. What if on this podcast we say sparkling water is as hydrating, and then later people will be like, I heard on this podcast that sparkling water is actually as hydrating, and then we'll just perpetuate that.
Absolutely.
But you know what? Caitlin did all this deep diving on like what hits algorithms and apparently like false information. Because people will be like, actually, you dumb bitch, that's not right. They'll come and try to correct you, and it's like, oh, it's engagement. It's engagement to correct you with misinformation.
Are you saying it's almost like there's an incentive to be incendiary and spread misinformation? That can't be right. That would make the internet a moral hazard.
Oh, that would make AI horrible, or impending AI because of how racist and filled with misinformation all of the information that's being fed into it is.
It's almost as if we're all in deep, deep trouble.
But not my friend who has a room full of squishmallows. She's doing
offline.
just fine.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'd love to be chronically offline. Can you imagine?
I thought you were going to say I'd love to be chronically with my squishmallow.
That too. Offline with a squishmallow, replace all my gadgets with just a giant squish that I just squeeze.
She moved to a farm. She literally was like left LA, moved to a farm, got off social media.
I have been doing an experiment this week of not being super online, and it's been the best week of my life.
I have yet to explore the experiment, but I want to. I want to, but I don't want to. I can't.
It's devastating how much happier I am.
I think about this like meme that I saw or whatever, where it shows like a picture of like an old computer station we all had on TV. It was like, remember when we used to like escape the real world and go online, but now we like try to escape online and go in the real world?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like, when I look at my screen time every week, I'm like, I don't need this information.
No.
Who asked for this report, Apple?
Yeah.
That's very depressing.
I also like barely watch TV anymore either because of just either, I mean, I'm not home at night anymore.
Yeah.
And then if I'm consuming media, it's on my phone, not on
When
not
I watch
television.
like a whole episode of TV, I'm like, I did something good for myself.
I read a book. It's like, it's the new book. Watching TV is the new book, unfortunately.
It's so true. I had this joke where I'm like, audiobooks, like, it counts as reading now.
It
like,
does.
It's this like celebratory thing. And I'm like, I heard that book. And you should feel like you should get credit for passively absorbing something. Whereas they say that actually the benefits of reading with your eyes instead of listening with your ears hits a different part of your brain. And
100%.
yeah. So
to me, like podcasting and like watching informational TikToks, like that's like reading too.
Yeah, that's the news.
well, sadly, that's where we are. We're like, I saw a TikTok recently that was like, when you say you read it somewhere, you mean you saw a TikTok. Be honest with yourself. You did not read it. You read the subtitles on the TikTok.
Do you ever catch yourself being like, I read
all the time?
I watched.
Yeah.
It's also wild to me that I'll watch these like hyper political TikToks that these children who are younger than me, and they're so confident in what they're saying. And I'm like, how do you know the full scope of like the Ukrainian war? Like, I don't understand, but you're so confident. I believe it. I don't know.
Right.
And like, maybe they're very well read, but it's just shocking to me.
Instead of banning TikTok, they should just pass a law that you need like 3 citations in the
Yeah, 100%.
You need to cite your sources MLA style.
That
or
will
whatever.
shut down TikTok on its
shut
own.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
And
don't
then
need
we'll really-
Congress. Yeah, you just
don't
need
need-
citations.
Oh,
And
man.
properly formatted. I
Yeah,
think that's
MLA
really,
formatting is all you needed to shut it down.
Can you imagine the nightmare of having to be like, first with all the internet, right, and all the plagiarism, and now with AI, like, how are you going to give somebody an English degree in good conscience when it was already hard to do that before?
I know, truly. I mean, I think about like even like my nephew who's like 14. I'm like, how do you like, even if you quote something now, I think, or like they did the study where even some students who wrote papers, they thought it was AI. You know what I mean? If you're like learning how to write a certain way, I feel like it's just gonna like, how can it not think that it's AI?
Right. And I bet also students of color will disproportionately suffer scrutiny.
Oh, 100%.
Like I got asked in my school once if I had plagiarized because the sentence was too sophisticated, and I was like, I beg pardon.
And you're like, I built the pyramid.
Yes. I gave her a history book and I showed her an informational TikTok about how the pyramids was me. All me. Yeah, it's wild. One day this will be a podcast led by 2 Middle Eastern AI bots. AI bots.
Digging up the funny from other robots.
From other robots' experiences with first generation humans.
Squishmallows that are powered by AI to have a podcast. That's the next level.
This is the dystopian hell that people sign up for.
Sora, whatever, right? That new, like, it's like the digital AI. You know what I mean? The AI just to make videos.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
I'm a copywriter, as you know, and I'm using AI now. The clients like encourage it. And copywriting, the reason you write it is so it goes on Google and Google's robots read it.
SEO.
So literally, So literally, I'm using robots to write for robots. It's a robot world, and we're just living in it.
They're gonna cut out the middleman soon. We are the middleman. Yeah, we are the CAPTCHA. Prove you're not a robot. It's soon just gonna be like, prove you are a robot. Prove you are a robot. Decipher these numbers.
Pick everything that isn't stairs.
Yeah.
And
But that's us training them, apparently, because I think it was like, right? That's us training them to understand those things and to see those things.
I've hired copywriters in the past to work for me, like when I was a content manager, and then I've used AI, and the AI produces copy that's better than a lot of writers I've hired in the past. And it's like scary, and it's just so efficient. It's really frightening.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, like, with everything being owned by corporations and not, like, you know, like the studios being no longer having, like, creative executives or whatever, it is kind of just going to come down to money. And I'm like, what? For who? For what? You know what I mean? I feel like...
For billionaires to get richer.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what the writers' strike and the SAG strike was about.
So, Cleopatra wasn't actually Egyptian, but she loved Egyptian culture and she embraced a lot of the customs. Are there any American customs that you've super adopted, or are there any Filipino customs that you can't shed?
It can also be a super Canadian thing that you do.
Yeah, I mean, Canadians are very polite, and I think that's probably something that I've latched onto. I think I apologize way too much. I apologize for everything. It's truly like I'll be like, sorry, and they're like, what are you sorry for? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, just over apologizing is definitely something.
Yeah, sorry is like aloha.
Yeah. Truly, if you're around a bunch of Canadians, it is like we do it all of the time. We A it up and we apologize.
I feel like Canadian multiplied by woman of color.
100%.
You're a sorry master.
I know. I feel like I've had people who be like, I apologize more because of you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't stop it. Like, yeah, it's definitely something I wish I could shed. But yeah. Like you're saying, it's like woman of color and Canadian. Whoa.
Yeah. Did your parents raise you religiously? I know you went to a Catholic school.
I went to church and I went to Catholic school, but not like overtly. But I did go through a phase where I kind of religiousized myself. Where like I wanted to be a nun. I prayed. I think it's because to me, to be honest, I think like wanting to be a nun is kind of queer coded. But I wanted to be a nun. I would pray every day. I'd like read the Bible before I went to bed, and I would make my family go to church for a little bit when I was like a preteen. You know what I mean? I think that's when you start becoming like vigilant about like, oh my God, there's injustices in the world, and like, how do you help and whatever. And I think like me turning to religion was kind of that way. Like I got confirmed and everything as well. I had all those things happen, but it was never like how much can you push religion when you're like gambling with a priest? I remember my parents did have like a game, then it was like, oh, the priest is here to play cards with us and gamble.
Hilarious.
It's corrupting everyone. Yes. But and I used to like hang out with a lot of like, a block from me was like the choir director's family, and they had a daughter who was the same age. So a lot of times I would like go to church and just like hang out afterwards. So I was involved in the church that way, but not, I want to say I was like, I guess I was religious for a while, but like, you know, now I'm like classic Catholic school where I'm like an atheist, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Or like agnostic, whatever. Yeah.
And we're like being in LA, is that what kind of made you woo-woo?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%. I think I was always kind of into astrology because I do fit like the description of an Aries, like a glove, for better, for worse. So I always like kind of believed it in that way. But I feel like LA is kind of like, it amps it up, right? It like speeds up how woo you get.
2 weeks ago, I realized that my astrologer shoots his podcast at the studio.
I love that you.
It's like the most LA statement possible.
That's so.
Shout out the studio.
I think that's also funny because it's like you could also be like, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
It's meant to be. We're studio mates.
I'm very late to the game on anything woo because I've always been like, that's not logical. Show me in the record where it says that Aries are driven, you know. But I think
it's in the stars, Christy.
Yeah.
I know, and you would think that being Egyptian, since ancient astrology is very, you know, you would think we would have a little bit of that, but I think a lot of the cultural stuff has been eclipsed by organized religion, although some stuff does. I would love for there to be an anthropology class about the sort of intersection between those like organized Abrahamic faiths and then astrology stuff, because there's astrology stuff in the Bible, the star that the 3 wise men followed.
Yeah, but also like in colleges, it's like, it's so funny because it's like with anthropology, they don't teach a lot of Egypt because Egypt has Egyptology, its own thing, because there's so much.
Right.
You know, you probably already know that. I'm preaching to the choir. But I think also like with astrology, I don't know. I think that like you have to get, I mean, especially when you're like queer, it's like you have to. Like, I remember
it's on the syllabus.
It's all
the
literally
bisexuality.
Yeah, it's
okay,
like
sorry.
half of what you're talking about in the early, like the talking phase is all astrology. I remember there was like a girl who I was like talking to on a dating app, and she was like, well, she did like a 5-page like reading on my birth chart. You know what I mean?
Before you ever met?
Before we ever met.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty intimate.
I like that. It was, and
like,
it was
buy
spot
me
on.
dinner first.
I know.
Astrology as foreplay is in the canon. Yeah.
I've also like made life decisions. Like when I moved to New York, it was because I did like a reading, and there was like my sunline went through New York, and they're like, I was like, I gotta go see.
And you immediately
and then but it did teach me a lot going to New York. I always like I always explain it like it was like taking a step back from like drawing something close up. And being able to take a bigger view, be like, oh, this is what I've been working on this whole time, and it gave me like, it recontextualized everything I was doing in LA in a weird way. So in a way, that astrologer was right.
Can you say a bit more about that? That's so interesting.
I think it was like when I moved to New York, I think I was like, oh, I've been like, because I was like doing all these shows in the Valley, and like I feel like I was just like in the wrong part of LA. I was doing stand-up. I know that sounds stupid, but then I came back to LA, and then I kind of I was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm better suited on East Side doing shows and mics there. And then when I started doing that, I think it really helped me like get further than I was doing. I feel like I'd spent a lot of time at Valley mics not really getting anywhere, being like, oh, you got a spot at the Flap, or you got a spot at the Ha Ha, and it wouldn't really help me get that far, you know. And when I came back and kind of repositioned where I was doing stand-up, it kind of changed a lot for me, I think.
It is wild how much like geographic location is important because like I know for me, like my target audience is Brooklyn. If I'm in Brooklyn, like that is where I go to thrive. But then sometimes I see people doing shows in like nowhere in like Fresno, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not gonna do well there. I don't know, something tells me that what I'm giving is not what they're buying.
Yeah, but also it could just be like you go and you see and you could be like wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That is, sometimes I am very.
We're going to Fresno. Pack your bags.
Like I get booked for colleges in Michigan, and I'm like, why? And then I feel like I go and then I bomb, and then I'm like, oh, well, what was that about? What are these Michigan people thinking?
Wait, do you see people like crush when you're there and you're like, oh, that's what I'm not delivering?
Not even. Like, because I feel like you just go and you do like your own time and then you leave. You know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, well, college students hate me. Never fun. And I was just like a paycheck. And you're like, okay.
So now we're going to move to our segment called Dig Deep. This is where we ask some deep questions. The first one is, Cleopatra was famously portrayed by Liz Taylor in the titular role. I don't know, I like the word titular. The 1963 film. So if your life were a crossover episode of 2 TV shows or 2 films, what would they be and who would play you? And it doesn't need to be a woman or a woman of color.
Who would play me?
Hers is Stanley Tucci.
Oh,
as an example.
Damn, that's a good answer. Yeah. I like that. Mine, because now that you've kind of opened the framework to anyone, it completely changes. Part of me wants to say Bruno Mars.
Oh, yes. I see that.
He's small, he's brown, he's in gambling debt.
I was just about to say, and he's in gambling debt.
If I could sing it, if he doesn't have to sing or dance, you know, but maybe just like a small man, I wouldn't wear as many he'd have to like put aside his fedoras for a while, or maybe honestly I went through a fedora phase. It's horrible. Where truly I was like Bruno Mars, like it was humiliating. But I'm gonna say Bruno Mars.
That's very funny.
That.
I love that so
Even though I think
so
he does
much.
have like a coke problem, I think I don't. Like I could never, I don't know, not my vibe.
You could have a coke problem if you believe.
I'm more of a stoner than a coke. I'm more of like I don't need any more energy.
Yeah.
I'm already like amped up.
Yeah,
Can't relate to
fair.
that.
I wake up and I'm like, let's go. It's bad. My girlfriend hates it.
Punch the air out of bed.
Truly, like this morning, I woke her up by like playing on Spotify. Life is a highway. I was like, life is a highway. What a great song to wake up to.
We're gonna get the rights to that song just for you,
Thank
so
you.
we can play you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bruno Mars is playing you, and what's the arc?
Okay, it's his arc. It's me fulfilling my hubris. You know what I mean? Of like being like, I don't think I have a gambling problem. Cut to me being, I wish I could be $50 million in debt, forever tied to Las Vegas. That sounds like a dream, honestly.
I wish I could be $50 million in debt.
He's like, ooh, he has to stay in Vegas and keep performing and gambling, buffets galore. Sounds like a dream.
It's like the Terminal with Tom Hanks, but it's the casino with Bruno Mars.
Exactly. I just get stuck having a residency somewhere on like at the Stratosphere. They're in New York, and is that where the New York Comedy Club is in Las Vegas? I went there. It was very sad looking.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've been there too.
I've never done stand-up in Vegas because it's another place where I'm like, I don't think what I'm putting down is what they're buying.
So, getting back to the question, what's the arc?
The arc,
yeah.
okay.
What are like the shows?
I'm seeing hacks in there.
I absolutely was gonna say hacks.
Yeah, so I feel like there's probably like I've written the pilot already, but some version of it, but it's literally like a lot of it's probably like me getting into stand up, but then also like getting into gambling more. I think it would be the arc.
Gambling movie or show?
It'd be like Molly's Game or Rounders are the only thing really the biggest.
I'm hoping it's not Uncut Gems.
Culture. Yeah. That'd be my dad's arc, unfortunately. Yeah, except the people sitting in the thing are just like my family in a car waiting for him to come out of a casino. But yeah, I think it would be like I start stand up and then get derailed by gambling. Is my arc. Cut to me in like 5 years,
And then
you
get derailed, but then you end up.
It ends up working out because then I do a special at the World Series of poker while playing poker.
That's amazing.
There you go.
And also, some Queen's Gambit in there, I think.
Yeah, there you go. Bada boom.
Yeah.
I love this.
I feel like the industry could just listen to our podcast and steal
take
so
notes.
many
I've thought about
diverse
that this
people's
whole time. We have and we
ideas.
have like really good comics and TV writers on this show who this is some free IP. Hopefully, anyway.
Or they hire you and they pay for the IP.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about AI for 30 minutes. So basically, they're not even going to listen. AI's going to listen to this and then talk about it. AI's going to listen to this and then talk about it. Next question.
So Cleopatra had a storied legacy as a scholar, a leader, a scientist, historian. What would you like your legacy to be? And what would you like your epitaph to read? Your eyes got so big.
I'm like, I guess I would like to be known for like making people laugh.
And I'm going to say $50 million in debt.
But also, and then making people laugh at my $50 million worth of debt.
You can do better than that.
Yeah,
You can go at least
100 million with inflation. Come on.
I believe in you.
Yeah.
You can leave it to all the people you love.
Yeah, they can all pay a little bit off. It's like student debt, gambling. When you owe money to bookies, and I'm just joking. It never goes away.
Like I want to be known for my how resilient and insane my creditors were.
the resilience of my creditors and my dad's creditors. Yeah, I think maybe making people laugh, being a good vibe,
check and check,
you know, and then also like just being fun. I know that sounds stupid, but I'm like, have fun.
Yeah, and you absolutely are so much fun.
I think so. I hope so. I don't know. I try to be, or not really. I mean, I think I just try to vibe out. Oh my God. I just heard that and I'm like...
and you're like, I'm no longer...
I know. You know what I mean? Where you're just kind of like...
I get it.
Yeah.
I think each one of us mentioned vibes at some point on this podcast. So.
Yeah.
We've said the word vibes far too many times for one podcast, for sure.
But the perfect amount of time for an LA brunch.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And my epitaph would probably read... I don't know, like fuck bitches get money or something stupid like that. I went bungee jumping and that's what I said as I was jumping.
And like, if these are out of you.
Well, I remember just being like, okay, in case I die.
Or you could say, don't believe me, just watch.
Yeah. Yeah, or I don't know, or probably like I wish I could think of something like grand and philosophical, but it just like truly the only thing that's coming to my head is like let's go or something stupid like that.
Let's fucking go next level.
How many O's on the go?
15.
Okay, great.
As many as my creditors can afford. As many as
on Love is Blind, after every engagement, the guys all said that though. Let's go. If you go back and watch it, it's terrifying.
I'm again my diminished television
Good for you,
situation,
honestly.
but I am slowly making my way, and I'm on like episode 3
of season 6
of the most recent season. Yeah, and it's just wild.
Just prime garbage TV. You know what I mean? Like they're
garbage. It's with an accent.
I can't wait for you to come talk about the ending when you see it. Oof.
Okay.
I don't know if
Are you? Do you watch it?
I don't. As a scripted television writer, I have to be the one person watching scripted TV, so I have a hard rule against reality. I realize it's very snooty, but someone has to be giving my team residuals.
Porque no los dos. I used to watch so much. I'm also the scripted TV show I'm watching is Fisk. Have you heard of this?
No.
Shout out to my good friend Maren Christensen, who recommended. It's an Australian show. It's comedy.
Australian, British, and Irish comedy slay.
It is so funny, but it's about this woman who her dad is Supreme Court justice, and she's just this like bad lawyer, and she's just like bumbling her way through like a bad law firm being a bad lawyer, and it's so friggin' funny.
Where's it streaming?
It's on Netflix.
Giving like Kunk on Earth kind of vibes.
I loved Kunk on Earth.
So good.
Oh my God.
So funny.
Pump the Jam.
It's also giving
Veep.
it has some like elements of that, but it's also it's so good. Anyway, I scripted television. Don't worry, it's alive and well. But
Shout
Love
out
is
to
Blind.
I don't know if it's doing well.
It's not alive
it's
or
not
well. It's both dead and
Sorry,
unwell.
I meant in my repertoire. Sorry.
But I think those countries though have better television because their studios will greenlight. They're more adventurous.
Like Fleabag, come on.
Yeah,
right.
You know, no one's
Epic.
Yeah, you have to be like a superstar already to have that green light in America. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, that's accurate.
I was talking to some comics who have reps, and everything they pitch to the reps are like higher concept, higher, bigger, higher.
I've kind of heard that it's like people want like hard comedies again, like multicam again.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe there will be a comedy comeback because I feel like for a while people were like they don't want to be buying, they only want dramas, or they don't want, they want sci-fi or whatever.
Like, why can't we just have like a show about friends, except that they're diverse and queer? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Get me Charles Laurie. I call him Charles.
2.5 women.
Right? In space. We're so high.
They're solving a murder from 30 years ago that's been echoing throughout time.
I want the sunlight to take 8 minutes to get. Okay.
They're not going to steal her TV show. They are going to steal Friends in space.
Yes, they will 100%. Space station.
Hot Pocket.
Yeah, no, Space station. Jim Gaffigan comes to my ass. Only I can say Hot Pocket melody things.
That's so true. It's like it's become so merged that I can't think about Hot Pockets without Jim Gavin. What a mark of a successful comedian that you could say a brand and evoke a joke.
I want to steal a jingle. I want to steal a jingle.
Not going to do the bit, but I definitely have already spoken on this podcast about my love and nostalgia for the 90s jingle.
We don't name one jingle that's current today.
All of the good jingles that are ones that just stuck around.
Yeah, there's no fresh jingle.
No fresh
there's
jingles.
Not like Apple. Maybe there's like sound effects. You know what I mean?
That's
we
true.
have like sound.
The Netflix drum roll.
Well, it needs to be like synthesized. I think the jingles now. This is how you.
I know. I was like, I'm your DJ.
I'm like, that's called the Watusi.
Yeah.
One last thing. I know you're not a materialistic girly. You're a frugal girly, as you said in your words. And I'm just kidding. But okay, the ancient Egyptians were known to take their belongings into their sarcophagi for the afterlife. If you had to take one item with you, what would it be?
Is sarcophagi the official plural?
Methinks it is.
I love it.
If it's not, I deserve an F in my Egyptology.
As an Egyptian, anything you say regarding anything is correct.
It is now.
It is now. Yeah, you're the authority on it. I would take my skateboard, even though I want to be skating more again. Yeah. Because I think it's just like something that you could spend endless hours doing. Like if I had another lifetime of time, you know what I mean? Like the hobbies that you would do if you had like another lifetime amount of time to just do things. Like you had like Groundhog Day where you could just spend like an eternity getting good at something. I think that's still something I would very much love to conquer.
Better yet, what if we put your casket on a giant skateboard?
Bada boom!
That's it.
You can put that in your will, actually, to specify. Instead of pallbearers, it's your 4 favorite skateboards.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be rolled down a ramp into the ocean, build a ramp big enough.
That's amazing. So we're going to wrap this up. And I want to ask you, so you have a podcast right now.
Yeah, Short Stacks. We're all under 5'2", I want to say.
And it is a can you tell everyone a little bit about it? I was like, it's a gambling podcast.
It is a poker podcast where we do also play for like real money. So it's kind of fun, and it's really like just us having a good time. You know, a lot of the guests come on and we teach. Sometimes we like all different skill levels for poker. Like we've taught a few people how to play poker on it, or like I've taught certain guests. I personally have taught them how to play poker. I told you earlier, it was like Will Sennett came on and he was like, I've never paid $20 to do a podcast before. But yeah, it's a poker podcast and we're going to have more episodes. We talk gambling and all things casinos.
I love that so much.
That's so full circle for you.
Full circle moment. Yeah. And is there anything else you'd like to promote?
I have a monthly show called Icons. We're currently at Lyric, but who knows where we'll be in a few months.
All right.
And then just follow me on Instagram.
Yes, we will link to Christine's socials in the show notes. So please do check her out and check out her podcast, Short Stacks. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Cleopatra. I had the best time. Me too. Thank you for doing this. Until next time, if you like us, please like, rate, subscribe, all the things. Leave a review. We'd really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time. I'm Christy Bana.
I'm Lynn Molly.
I'm Christine Medrano.
Bye.
Bye.